This is video number 3 in a series where I am using a process to interpret Jesus' teachings, and this video is the number 3 here is from the Sermon on the Mount. I've already got videos up of several where I've done the Sermon on the Plain, and then a number of them where I've done the Gospel of Thomas. So here the Sermon on the Mount was the largest collection to work on. And just a refresher, what I'm doing is if I read Buddha's verses, the Dhammapada, and I learn how to interpret these in a very specific way, that it's a mental process and each verse is about me, and it's somehow I'm supposed to learn how to interact with this verse and make it something about me. And then when I do, I learn that there's things in here that's telling me how my life came about, why I'm hanging on to things, how to let them go, and that life will become better as a result of that. We're looking for nirvana. Now, what I've done just on my own was take that same technique and apply it to Jesus material. The reason is because I see a lot of similarities between things that Buddha says and that Jesus says. They sound different if you don't look at them close, but things like karma, which is denoting the idea of cause and effect, is the same thing as the measure you mete unto others will be likewise meted unto you, which is cause and effect from an inner area right there. So those are the same things. They're teaching the same thing, but nested in verbiage that is you have to unlock. So again, that's the process that I'm using here in Jesus material, and what it is revealing is that there is a mental interactive process to inner healing in this material. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Very quickly, I'm going to do a review of what we've covered in the first 2 videos, and I'll post a link to them below, but here is where we left off. Okay, Sermon on the Mount, I call it a pathway to inner peace, a mentally interactive approach. And I read and interpret these till I understand them as a mentally interactive or instructional healing process. A judgment here, as these are being interpreted, means something that I have in memory, and they're things that we have in memory and are holding on to with negative emotion and negative physical consequences in our life as a result, also known as naming in Genesis and in Taoism, for example. It is a memory coupled with an emotion of varying magnitude, but with negative results for our life. That's a judgment, okay? We started with the Beatitudes. This is kind of a if-then. Blessed are you who are devoid of judgments. You will receive inner peace. That's our goal right there. Blessed are you who resolve and heal your stored judgments. You will find inner peace. Blessed are you when you won't fight yourself. You will find inner peace. Blessed are you who desire inner peace with heartfelt passion. You will find it. Blessed are those who stop hating your memories. That will ease them. Blessed are you who are devoid of inner hurt. You will live through your higher awareness. Blessed are you who make peace with your past. You will live with inner peace. Blessed are you who resolve what is in the way of your inner peace, for you will live joyous. Blessed are you when your inner hurt is awakened by our desire to heal, and so we face it openly. It hurts, feels bad, tries to hide, and it causes us to lash out, and so it persecutes us. What this is telling us is that when we heal, it's going to hurt. It hurts to heal because we must face the hurt, but when we do face it, it goes away. Rejoice in that process. The healing will bring you to more inner peace. This is how it works for everyone. So it's telling us to turn in and face the things that we typically don't want to face. But that when we do that, it is going to hurt, and to know that that is okay, because that is how the healing process works for everybody that's been teaching this to you from antiquity. Okay, we have to turn and look at that stuff. Then the second video was here. You begin life pure and unified in mind and experience. This is us as infants. But then you experienced and judged life and have become divided as a result. We have lost the inner peace we seek. What's next? Combine 14, 15, and 16. When I have used my higher awareness working with my consciousness and memories to heal all of my hurt, to live through my higher awareness, my detached self, I will find freedom from all, and my life experience will feel free. He's telling the people that are listening to this material, remember we're hearing this 2,000 years ago as people that are just, we don't read or write. We're not getting it like this. We're hearing it in a different way, boy, we got to try to get out of our biases, but we can't. Okay, so he's telling us, I'm not here to replace your teaching. We want to know, we're Jews. When are things changing? The Romans are occupied us. Are you coming here to save us? Are you the save? Okay. And he's saying, I'm not here to replace your teaching or your called gurus on their own cryptic healing adventures of antiquity. He's not here to replace the prophets and all, the laws and all that. I'm here to reinforce their teaching of a path to inner peace. Yet he's not here to rid, but to uphold. When you are ready to heal, you will need to follow the complete patterned pathway. Those who do not know the steps can't teach them to others and are not understanding the self. Those who do know and accomplish them and show the way to others will feel inner peace. If you don't gain purity exceeding the religious teachers, you'll never find inner peace. Don't follow them. Turn inward to self. Following them keeps you close, but at any time you're ready for the path, you stop following them, grab the material, and turn inward, and it's a solo journey. Okay, video 3 starts here concerning anger, so I'll just wait until I get through this video to get into that part of it. All right. Yeah, this time I'll just jump right into it. Again, links to the first 2 videos below, and here's where we left off, and I'll jump right in. A little description about what we're doing, color coding wise, and then right into the interpretation. All right, we're going to pick up at concerning anger, and what we have here is everything that is written in blue are notes that have been added in. They're not part of the Bible. The red right here are what we're interpreting. These are Jesus verses. That's our big concern. Then you'll see it's followed by blue, which is my comments on it. And then you will see a green version down here that is numbered, the same as the red one was. And that is my plain language interpretation of it. And it just sequences like that. Okay, so we were up next to concerning anger. And there's a clump in here together that I've got it spread out, these verses, and I'm going to recombine them in the end. Okay, 21, you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not kill, and whoever kills will be liable to judgment. Okay, Jesus is referencing the Jewish material. This teaching references the physical realm. If you kill someone, you will be judged for that. And I've changed that to say we were once told to not kill anyone or we'll be judged for it. Not much of a change there. It's not an interactive mental or spiritual, both the same verse right there. 22. But if I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to counsel. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. Okay, so in this case, what do I have here? However, even if we harbor anger, we will be judged. If we conflict with any person, we will be held accountable. You see how it says, but if I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you'll be liable to the judgment. It just says that you're angry with them. It doesn't say that you've done anything or that anything physical happens. You've insulted them. You'll be liable to the council. You're saying things behind their back. You're a fool. This is just holding bad feelings towards other people. So if you're doing that, you're going to be judged by what you're holding. If we conflict with any person, we will be held accountable in some manner. How can this be so? Who is holding us accountable? Okay, so I put that down as however, just thinking poorly in judgment of others makes it bad for us. That's how we flow in life. Our energy. So when you're offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, that should be one, but I broke that apart. We offer a gift at the altar to get into God's good graces. Remember, we're way back then. What are we doing? We're listening to this, and it's a simple verse. If we're carrying it, I'm giving my gift at the altar, and why? Because I want God to grace me. I'm getting ready to make a trip. My animals are sick. I'm poor. I don't have money. You believe in God, and you think, I have to do something to show God my worthiness, so God will grace me. So you're doing that. But once we look at it in the psyche, what we see is something different. What we want to know, what we're looking at here is to have a better life. We don't want to have a poor life. We want to have a better life. We're looking for good graces, and we realize we've got something mentally unresolved. When you have aught against your brothers and sisters, who could that be? If we're holding anything in your mind that is an unresolved memory from way back when, childhood or anything, that may not be a brother or sister. That's life experiences. We're holding anything at all. We're looking for a better life. At the same time, we have unresolved memories. Any memory we hold with an emotional charge that lives counter to inner peace is the ought. That is our inner judgment. Okay, so I've changed that to say, while seeking a better life, you recall you have unresolved memories. Then it goes on, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Okay, do not give the gift, which means stop seeking a better life or graces as long as you know you have unresolved issues with anyone from your life. Remember in the DVD, The Secret, where it says that stuff is called so what? Right here, this is saying, that so what is what you go after. You want a gift at the altar. You want a better life. You want good graces, and you know you've got something unresolved. You don't so what it. You stop looking for good graces, and you go resolve the impediment. This typically means the past, unresolved issues, even if they are held against someone who is now gone from your life or even passed on. It is the inner issues that divide us. We go resolve the issues first. Get it to where there's no emotional charge to them. That's how life unfolds. Then give your gift in order to seek a better life. So what this is basically saying is, instead of that's called so what, this is saying, nope, that is what. You want a better life? Go resolve the stuff that's preventing it. Okay, I've got it. I've got that one interpreted to say, stop seeking a better life and go resolve the issues first, then seek a better life. 25, come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Okay, accusers are who cause new issues, conflicts. Accuser does not mean somebody that's getting to you. The accuser is you making a decision. I don't even like that. Somebody did something to you. Okay, so it makes me mad, or somehow something. Come to terms quickly with that stuff. Actually, stop doing that. And do not let them become issues, else you go to court, be judged by them, and become imprisoned by them. Okay, so accusers are judged experiences. They do come with people involved in them for sure, but the issue is how we judge and maintain them in our memory. The person can be anyone. The memory can only be what you decide it is. That is the true ought in our souls, or what runs in the background. So what do we have here? I changed that to resolve any new conflicts right away. Do not accumulate new ones. Yeah, once we realize what's going on, and that actually they compound. If we leave them in place unresolved, we continue to link other things to them, and that's something that happened one time that was at one time bothersome, and I'm not quite sure what to think about this, now is full-blown anger, hatred, and judgment. It continued to grow while it was there, even though the experience did not continue to, or may not have. You get the idea. Okay, 26. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. All right, what are we trying to get out of? It flows with the teaching in this section. We are trying to, I wonder why they didn't come up and say that was a spelling problem. We are trying to get out of our inner conflict. This is telling us we will not escape it till we have done all we need to resolve it. Often we must examine past issues again and again to ease them. Some are easy for sure. It's as easy as changing an understanding. But some things are very hurtful and deep. We may have to examine certain memories many times before we are actually free from their emotional charge. You can't be free of it till it doesn't affect us anymore. And you know that by looking at the emotion. Pull up the memory. Go look at it. Bring it up. How does it make you feel? Talk to somebody about it. How does it make you feel? That's how it's living. All right, I've changed that to we will not be free till we have resolved all of our hurt emotions. And that requires committing to healing everything that emerges to let it all go. And I compare this to Gospel of Philip, hidden parts. Jesus cleaned out the whole place while others did it only partially. Gospel of Thomas, verse 67. If one who knows all still feels a personal deficiency, he is completely deficient. Okay, so in the first one, you're cleaning out the whole place. That's the bundle of memories, the mess that you've got in your head. If one who knows the all, you know how to resolve all of this stuff and you know what to do, but you still have issues inside of you, you're not going to feel okay. You're going to feel like I got to resolve this. What did it say? We will not be free till we have resolved all of our hurt emotions, and that requires committing to healing everything that emerges to let it all go. All of these will line up with each other conceptually, even if they don't verbally. All right, I've combined that entire piece together. This is what it would sound like. We were once told to not kill anyone, or else we will be judged for it. However, just thinking in judgment of others will affect us. While seeking a better life, you recall you have unresolved memories. Stop seeking a better life and go resolve the issues first. Then seek a better life. Resolve any new conflicts right away. Do not accumulate new ones. We will not be free till we have resolved all of our hurt emotions, and that requires committing to healing everything that emerges in order to let it all go. That's exciting to me. I'm so happy to do this, to learn how to read Buddha and come and do that here and go, okay, karma, the measure you meet, Jesus, Buddha, yeah, 500 years apart, walking down the road at the same time, teaching the same things. Yep. How would you say it in your culture? I'll just use karma. The measure you meet. Yeah, there's something else I've got to do. Well, Jesus wouldn't talk in Old English, but anyway, you get the idea. Okay, so this is that universal teaching that we're looking for. Let me go ahead and continue on. All right, next section is called Concerning Adultery. Again, these are what notes have been added in by the translator, and they've made other changes as well. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. I think it actually said, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife or something. So they try to change it up to make it more balanced. But the reality of it is it should be left like it is. Let me just go through my interpretation. Referencing a verse in the Ten Commandments from Exodus, that one also needs to be interpreted and is not in plain language. Adultery in the physical realm is extramarital sex, wouldn't it be? Yep, sure. But what would it be in the spiritual or mental realm? It is different. It is judging something in the physical world. We are creating our spiritual self, or, that bundle of what we live through. You call that the spiritual self. We feel it. That's what drives us. That's what, that's what animates us and gives us the capacity to function. That spiritual self. We are creating our spiritual self by interfacing with the physical world. This is physical on physical, not type on type. If someone has a physical connection with someone's spouse, that is physical adultery. Spiritual adultery means I have had a life experience and have created an emotionally charged memory or a so-called offspring as a result. Spiritual adultery means having a conflict and creating something in the mind that continues to emerge as the offspring beyond the moment that was done. Okay, so adultery there is just really judging the world and saying, I now believe this or that because I saw this and that, without realizing there's something different, more behind it. We become products of what we judge. Okay, so I changed that to you have been told not to have extramarital sex. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So there we have, just look at it. How could this be? In the physical world, it can't be. If you desire somebody, you have not committed adultery in the physical world, but it says in her heart. What is in the heart, in the soul, in the personal experience, in the bundle of memories? This is thinking makes it so. This is telling us it isn't enough to not act out our desires or not. You know, what we always have to remember here is that, sometimes I listen to myself and go, God, what am I talking about the next day? I don't know how rough this gets to be to listen to. There's a mental hierarchy going on here. Anyone who looks at a woman with lust, this applies to each person that is on the path. You are the any person, and the woman is the inner self in this material, the way that they are holding it in the mental hierarchy. That translates because if you think about it, they are in a patriarchal society. The woman is subservient to the male, very much so, and they write it that way because it's a good way to carry it. It doesn't violate anything that they're not doing culturally. But if you say that those are analog terms, that they don't really mean what they say in the physical world, that they translate to something up here. What they do is they translate into that same hierarchy. The male is in charge of the female, or the conscious is in charge of the subconscious. That we actually become a product of the way we have judged our life experiences, what those experiences are, and what we've judged them as. So that's going on. Always be cognizant of that as we're reading these, that when it says male and female, keep translating these all the time. Everything gets the same treatment. No words, even if they sound like they belong in the outside world, don't do that. Find they're analogous for something. Make the conversion and they will become something that is interactive or something that we can understand. And then we know that. We realize that it is the conscious mind and our thinking and our experiences that have created our inner being that is now giving offspring to what is, somehow in violation of what we want. It's all mental processes, but held in incredibly clever ways. In fact, think of this. There's a number of times in the Bible where there's a nakedness. At one point in time, it seems okay. Adam and Eve, naked, unashamed, in the Garden of Eden before first sin. After first sin is when covering came about. Right there's a clue. Everywhere else, whenever naked shows up, after the flood, Noah creates a garden or a vineyard and creates wine from his new vineyard and becomes buzzed off of it, and he's naked in his tent, and his son's ashamed of him, come and cover him up. And you look at that and go, what is that? Those are analogs. That didn't happen. Naked is a good thing. Naked was a good thing in the Garden of Eden before we get covered up. After flood, we're naked again. Only what happens, we get covered again. It was actually a good thing. When we interpret it, we realize that it represents us, that we have healed from something, we are now uncovered from it, and we have created a new life as a result and consumed from that life, and we feel good from it, and we're uncovered in our tent now, in our new realm. But life comes and covers us up again. We're going to end up with something else to do, and that's the way the story's written. But if you don't make that conversion, you would go, oh, naked doesn't sound good. Now, though, everywhere in the Bible or the Gospel of Thomas or any place you find naked, that is how you treat it. Suddenly, being naked's a good thing. That means uncovering. You know what? I got nothing to hide. There's nothing you can hold nothing over me. It's all already out there. No fears. I live without any fears. That's naked in the spiritual world. Somebody in the background knew reality. Having those desires is not having inner peace. Thinking makes it so. We are based on energy, and we manipulate and create energy as emotional storage. Then we live through that. We don't have to act out fear or shame to experience fear or shame anyway. We have it in our memories from our past. We align in an energy collective based on our mental thoughts, not based on our physical deeds. So I translate or interpret that as, but anyone who mentally holds any desires will suffer for those desires. Yeah, it's a mind thing. You want something you can't have, you're going to suffer for it. sometimes you can't change that. If you're hungry and you're suffering for food, you can't say, well, I'm going to quit doing that. This kind of turns on at some spiritual point and takes on a little bit different meaning. Existential suffering. I like this because years ago I had a coworker that he bought this car that was probably out of his range, and he was a car guy, he called himself. He was so obsessed by that car that he would like all the time be out looking at it. He'd park it in ways that nobody could get around it, and if somebody came and parked near it anyway, he would go move it and get mad. And it's like that kind of suffering right there is like, why? What are you doing? Where does that go when life is over? Yeah, don't do stuff like that. That's just one example, but mental existential suffering wastefully is different than suffering for a need. A mother suffering mentally because she can't feed her children. That's a kind of suffering that doesn't fit this category right here. So the kind of suffering, then the existential type of stuff is, just having desires, things unfulfilled, or feelings of self-worth, or things like that. Somehow, some way, you don't measure up, or you don't have what you need. You're not happy. You're not satisfied. Something is missing, and you feel that loss. And sometimes if the loss is a person because you've lost someone, that's different. If the loss is because I don't get the sailboat I want or something, that's not a part of my realm. Then that's it. Or suffering for something, possessions and things like that, having so much stuff that you need to guard them that this becomes what you live through, the ownership of things. It doesn't mean that you can't have things. It means don't treat them in such a way that they become so important to you that they dictate the way you are happy in life or not. You're on a spiritual path. That means you must have enough things going that you have time to take to look. It's a mental process. Okay, the next verse. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. Okay, let's go through this. I got a big chunk here, don't I? The eye is used as an analog to represent how we view life through our emotional perceptions. It is, of course, as we all know, not one of our eyeballs. We cannot treat this verse literally. That's crazy. Then why is it here? We always need to remember all verses are cryptic and are all treated with the same interpretation techniques. We see that they are all interactive or instructional so far. These are telling us how we came about by holding our memories. This will continue to unfold as we go through the entire body of work, just like what I'm doing here. So we stay on that course. We know what we're shooting for, so we don't stray all over when we interpret. The eye or third eye does exist. It's an analog, though, but it will have to be within that framework of the mind, electrochemical brain energy, and the human collective. The eye is our complete mental experience, our memories, and we continue to view, judge, and live our life through that. We get an illusion of free will from here, but we are living new experience based on how we judge the new from our past memories. This is comprised of our memory bundle. Okay, so the eye is just our entire memories, how we live and experience life. Some of that is okay. Some of it is joyful and happy and wonderful. But, let me move on, there is a dark or hidden part of that. Eckhart Tolle would say the pain body. Carl Gustav Jung would say the shadow. Don Miguel Ruiz, as a Toltec, would say the mitote. Jesus would call it the mote in our eye. Egyptian teachings, the third eye, Hinduism uses this symbology as well. It's a metaphoric eye in which we experience and view life. It's all here in the psyche as the mass of memories and their emotional charges that we live through. Our consciousness doesn't like to feel hurt, so we ignore that we're living through that as well as the things we do like. It is beginning to make up a significant guidance package for our life. What is it? It is who we are when we aren't living through a higher awareness, even if by just having fun at the moment. It is when we are living through experiences in our past. How often is that for you? Only you would truly know for yourself. Honesty at this level is highly personal. Only we can lie or be honest with our deepest thoughts. You go there in your head. That's the place to be. It's all and only yours, but we have the tools to work with. We use them or not. Remember Jesus in the Gospel of Philip, hidden parts, verse 133. It will not merrily cut them down, for what is cut down sprouts up again. Rather, the axe will dig down until it cuts out the root. Jesus pulled out the root of the whole place, while others did it only partially. What does this mean when we consider everything we're talking about? What roots need to be pulled out and from what place? We can manage a few big issues if we like. We may use this material not for enlightenment, but just to heal some big things that bother us the most. Jesus went for it all. We can too. His cryptic terms point to an inner pathway. He offers tools. The rest is up to us. How far and how much you want to resolve is your choice. If somebody has a bunch of issues and they resolve a few things that give them the capacity to live and they just leave the rest in place, that's not enlightenment. That's resolving a couple of things. That's not cleaning out the whole place. That's okay, but that's just what the teaching is here. Okay, so this right eye being torn out instead of losing your whole body means to turn away from and stop seeing with your desires, fears, shames, new things out there, temptations, fears, unhealthy addictions, etc. The eye is a mental perception. We need to get away from our past sometimes, or just the temptations of others or from others. These are going to be things that are hurtful to others or yourself. Many things are judged as sinful and are not actually hurtful. Yeah, so watch that. What is, we remove the mental perceptions and beliefs that cause us to be off course for inner peace. Call that sin. Let me read that again. We remove the mental perceptions and beliefs that cause us to be off course for inner peace. All of that stuff, that is what is called sin. It's a broad term, and it means what hurts you. That's our sin. What hurts you? That's why everybody is sinned. This isn't about the physical world. I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? I got some issues. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Those issues, the stuff I'm not telling anybody. Okay, so I've changed that to, or interpreted that to be something more along the lines of your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. 2, if you view life in ways that remain hurtful, get rid of that. Anything you harbor and hide will prevent your complete inner peace. It's better to resolve one issue than to live haunted by it. Okay, this one says, and if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. So it's the same verse, except from the eye, it's to the hand. In this case, it's hand instead of eye. This closely replicates the last. However, while it dealt with the mental aspects of the human through the mind's perception or eye, this one is physical. What are we doing or experiencing in the physical world that we need to get away from or cut ourselves off from, as it were? To be enlightened in its entirety, we pretty much need to be away from experience mental and physical temptations that we're trying to grow away from. We live in automatic mode through memories and habituation. Yep, we have to make changes. I've changed I've changed that to, if you struggle with physical temptations, leave it behind. It is better to get away than to suffer in life. Okay, moving on to concerning divorce. I want to talk about something for a second. There's 2 kinds of divorce. The divorce that is the physical divorce, man, woman, married, divorce, marriage problems, whatever, legal, non-legal, that is a part of the physical world, and that is what is the carrier shell. When we translate that to the psyche, the divorce happens between the conscious and the subconscious, the Adam, the Eve, the male, the female aspect. The divorce happens honestly because of our life perceptions have been stored away that are now acting out in such a way that I am no longer happy. That now, instead of having something physically happen that wasn't happy, I put it away. Now as I go through life, that's how it continues to play out. So if you can think through this, at some point in time, those memories weren't there, or the conflict isn't there, or in some people it isn't there, that doesn't happen for them. They don't go through processes, or we don't want to go through processes throughout the day where we are existentially going through past experiences, pain, fear, being triggered, experiencing things, feeling like just, oh, we should just be going, wow, how beautiful this is. But we don't. We get caught up in other stuff, the past. So when we're combined and everything is okay, that is said to be like having a marriage. We're combined. Two are one, and mountains can be moved. The marriage can happen, but only after the guests have departed. Whenever things are there in place that prevent the wedding from happening, they have to be gone. All of it is getting to the idea that when we have things inside of us that act out of us or that make us feel bad, they're not to our conscious choosing. We would prefer something else, then we're divorced. We've got something that we're living through that is something we don't want, and it's a part of us. We're no longer connected to it. We are internally divided, in conflict, divorced. All of those analogous terms, same thing. It just means there's parts of us that we don't like, that act out, and damn it, they do it. Okay, all right. Okay, concerning divorce, it was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. This whole section right here is starting off with something of the physical world, and then the answer that is in red is of the spiritual world. Outward, inward, outward, inward. This is referencing the physical and the past. Once was this, but now is this, in these two. This one can't play out in the mental hierarchy properly. The reason is that in all of Jesus' teachings, as well as Abrahamic in general, the marriage is between inner and outer self. Basically, it means we work to cease to be divided. When we are divided, this is an analog for being divorced from our inner self. It often acts out on its own, but we made it the way it is through our judgments and unawareness of that. We never want to divorce, legal or otherwise. Never. We seek a unity of self, to be one, not divided. When we're on autopilot, all is well and happy and free feeling. So this is not about the inner self, but is being set up or being used to set up the teaching line, which is next. You see that. If you want to get a divorce and make it legal, then make it legal. When you're talking about your inner being, you never want a divorce. Never. Okay. I changed that to, we were once told, whoever divorces their wife, make it legal. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife except on the ground of sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. What? Okay, these are fun to work through. These ones get a little bit thick and cryptic, but there's ways of working through them. There's different pieces in here, and I'm going to take one in there, the except for, and just pull that out to begin with. We'll work around that to begin with, and then add it back in later once we get the rest of it done. Have to kind of simplify what's going on for my mind anyway. Okay, let's get back to it, and I'm going to show you a little bit of restructuring I've done here to make it easier for me to analyze this. I wrote this one gets a bit twisted. They hid the lesson very well. I need to separate a part out first. The except on the ground of sexual immorality. That is an exception to the rule, so let's first figure out what just the rule is by itself without the exception. It has two parts. Actually, there's three. I've got the exception down here too. But the rule is two parts. Here's the rule. Anyone who divorces his wife causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Then the exception was, except for due to sexual immorality. So let's figure out what that one and number two is up there first, and then come back and see if we can find out what that third one is. We see that there is something that is fixed. Anyone who divorces his wife causes her to commit adultery. All right. Moving on here, we need to identify the analogs. Anyone is any of us, male or female, the one searching. This is you. The wife is the inner self, subconscious or bundle of memories that we experience life through. Divorce means we are internally divided. We have things in our memories and past that are not okay when we think about them. We carry them with us, and they cause us to act out and later feel regrets, or maybe we have fear, isolation, anger, etc. When we don't feel okay for mental reasons and the experience of life is all mental, we are said to be divorced. We are married when we are happy, and our inside feelings and outside experience match in joy of life. Adultery in this material means we now have memories that cause us to be off course from inner peace. The mental accumulation of unwanted life experiences and judgments has caused us to have, metaphorically, unwanted offspring. This is the result of the analogous term adultery. Yeah, we have things in us that we would call children that act out that are not what we consciously want. Where did they come from? They still came from our consciousness, but they came from judgments that we don't want, not judgments that we do. So then, anyone who divorces their wife, causing her to commit adultery, would interpret as roughly, if you are now internally divided, your inner memories will act out. This is like Eve's first sin from Eden. Eve is our inner self. The first sin is our first judgment in our life. Then later, we have pain in childbirth. This means we hurt when our inner experiences or memories act out. We get triggered. They are using adultery here instead of sin. It's the same lesson being transported in different analogs. The first part fits with, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Okay, we'll get back to the verses now. To marry a divorced woman is not to marry your own divorced ex-wife. That would be your inner self in the mental hierarchy. What this means is someone else's offspring, or rather they're acting out and losing it or treating someone, including themselves, bad. Okay, so it's judging and watching somebody. It means you didn't turn the other cheek. Instead, when someone may have exploded in anger, you exploded right back at them. You begin to fit with their unresolved issues. And this might, maybe you didn't. Maybe you observed somebody doing something and you just walked away going, oh my God, those people are just, what a bunch of whatever. You fill in the blanks. We're making judgments about something and developing convictions about something based on an observation from a handful of people doing something. We wire to that as a conviction when it's not. It's just something happening out there. Okay. We are marrying or making union with someone else's divorced wife or divided self. So this fits right along with the first line. And let me rephrase these two right here. When we are divided within ourselves, that causes our inner self to act out, and we lose control of the unresolved areas. When we react to others as they go through their processes of being internally divided, we create that within ourselves. Basically, we are judging it as effect. All right, you see that sudden shift in there, that 4, 5, and I put that 6 down here. That came from up above up here. That's where I put these down. This is the rule, 1 and 2, with 3 is the exception. So after all this trying to talk it through down here, if I were to reword 4 and 5 right here, I've got the original. Anyone who divorces his wife causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. I've got that changed to anyone who harbors hidden fears will act out those fears, and whoever shares someone acting out becomes that. Okay, and then to reiterate something that was said earlier, when it comes to the psyche, you are always looking to have a union, never a divorce. So there is never a reason, even if it's for sexual immorality. The sexual immorality is something that we have all had. That means sin. That means I've had something that happened that now I am harboring inside of me, and it's continuing to hurt. That's all that means. It doesn't mean what it sounds like. We have to shift the analogs. So we've all have had that experience. So when we're talking about that, though, it's not as though our inner being went off and had a physical sexual union somewhere. This represents mental processes that we have to then undo. That union happened because we judged something and we're holding that judgment. We have to change the way we're holding the judgment to get rid of what is in the way to reestablish the union. That's what we want, is that our inner being, whenever we're not paying attention, nothing is emerging from us that makes us go, oh my God, I have this to deal with. Oh, this is still worrisome. God, I hope nobody ever finds out about that. Oh, this makes me angry. That stuff never happens anymore. That's an indicator that we are divorced. So we never want to, this doesn't work. So this part, the exception right here, is the physical part of the verse. The first section and the last section, the rules basically are spiritual, but right in the middle of it, that exception, that's of the physical world. So they hid that in there. But when you interpret it, here's what we end up with. Okay, before starting the exception, I actually went back and I rethought and updated something back here. I think it's a little more accurate. And whoever marries a divorced woman means somebody. What a divorced woman is something acting out. It's a sin. It's something. It's something that is emerging that is not in compliance with, or actually, I should say, is in conflict with conscious desires. What is the best thing? Anger and all things like that. That is a divorced woman. So if you're married to that, what you're doing is you're reacting to that. You are becoming a part of it. Then you're committing adultery. You are doing the same thing. You're becoming a product of it. So I've changed that to more accurately say, and whoever shares someone acting out is also that. Yeah, we fit. We're a part of that. If we're in a situation that we're always mad at somebody for doing something wrong, we need to understand why we are a part of that. We think we exist in a vacuum. Okay. And then we had the exception, except on the grounds of sexual immorality. Without going through all this, let me just quickly restate here. This should be getting obvious to people. We never want to have a divorce if we're talking about the mind, the conscious choices, what we want, what makes us feel good. What is our life experience generally like? And what do we harbor inside of us that dictates what that feeling actually is? What it is, what we want it to be. If they align and we're happy, we're married. If not, we're divorced. There's something else going on because we have accumulated a mass of memories now that are acting out or that make us just feel a certain way. Maybe they're not acting out. How do you feel? Maybe there's things that you just hold inside that you hide, but they're acting out really because they are affecting you. They may not act out between you and another person, but if they're affecting your life, then they are surfacing. They are emerging. They just didn't go to somebody else's garden. They're staying in yours. Okay, so this entire verse here, then it's like, okay, if there's a reason to ever get divorced and it's due to sexual immorality, then this is not about the mental or the spiritual. It doesn't fit there in the mental hierarchy. So it only works in the physical world. So divorce is okay when due to physical sexual immorality. That's what they're teaching people at that time. They're trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? What's the best thing? Okay, so here we have it down here again. The original verse said, "But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife except on the ground of sexual immorality causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery." Okay, so remember this part right here, that anyone who divorces his wife causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman cause her to commit adultery. Those are two right there. So this set one right here, that exception, I pull that out just to minimize the confusion. I'll add it back in. This verse is a blend of physical and spiritual, mental. But the physical section is stuck in the middle of the spiritual section. That makes it look kind of confusing, I think. So I swapped their location for this interpretation. These are puzzles. They're verbal puzzles. They're mixed. How do they make it a puzzle? They mix it up inside. It now starts out as strictly physical, then switches to the physical, inner, or mental. That's how I've got my interpretation here. So this is what I have it saying. Divorce in the physical world is okay due to sexual immorality. Then it switches to the mental or the spiritual. Anyone who harbors hidden fears will act out those fears, and whoever shares in someone's acting out is also that. There we go. You see how I'm doing these? All right, let's move on to concerning oaths. Okay, this starts at verse 33. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times. So this is referencing in the past. You've heard something. You shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. Now, this is going to go on to have some other areas to it. That's not complete. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, neither by other things. So we're going to have this. I've got it broken up here. I don't know the best way to do it for now, so this is how I've got it. All right, so again, we've heard it said of those ancient times, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you've made to the Lord. Okay, I've got it. It references the Judaism and the Torah's teaching. The Christian conversion is not complete, but is clearly well underway. Pharisees teach and interpret the scripture for the people, and the Pharisees are Jews. Jesus seems not that fond of Pharisees. He is shifting their teaching and updating the religion. The nested teaching will remain the same, but the Pharisees don't know the nested teaching. They are like priests, ministers, preachers, etc. They teach the supernatural carrier shell, not knowing what is nested deeper, the inner pathway. Jesus does know. He's not teaching Christianity. That was Paul. This is simply replicating what to them was already an ancient teaching, which admonishes the Jews to maintain their commitments they make to God. It sounds like a trade or a barter is happening, something like, God, if you just get me out of this mess, I promise to, and then fill in the blank, which leads into Jesus's cryptic teachings and shifts from the physical interpretation to an inner mental one. This is teaching us in analog form from Judaism to maintain one mindset. Think of the verses about one sheep or one fish that is most important. It is a committed and non-wandering mindset. It is purity by ridding division, held in verbiage that was already about 1,500 years old for Jesus' time. So I've changed that to say we have learned from antiquity not to make promises to God without keeping them. That's all that says. But, here's the fun part. Okay, this is where the teaching comes in. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God. Okay, so Jesus' lesson takes over here. He isn't negating the old one. It too requires interpretation, but the analogs are too outdated unless one remains Jewish. Jesus's is a new way of saying it. Let's identify the analogs and what they mean. Swear, heaven, and throne of God. This goes in the mind, not in the air. Work it backwards again. The verse. I'm not sure if this is right. It's just how it works in my head for interpretation. Yeah, sometimes I go through the verses and I don't read it start to finish. I start picking it apart and try to understand what various pieces are, then look at it and find out that sometimes they've jumbled things up a little bit. It's an accidental find, but you go for the stuff you can understand and then work through the stuff that's more complicated. Okay, so I know what God is. It's the higher awareness, as well as all the cosmic energy we work with to create our lives, regardless of what that is. We create our lives all the time through storing emotional perceptions of experiences. We do this first in life while not being aware of that. Most people never become aware of that. God creates the good and the bad. Genesis 12, the call of Abram. This is the calling of Abram line through the monomyth starting after the flood. God is being identified. God is calling Abram to be the father of God's now called Abrahamic religion of Judaism. Verse 3, I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. God provides the good and the bad. Parallel this with the Tao Te Ching, verse 6. The Tao is called the Great Mother, empty, yet never exhausted. It gives birth to infinite worlds. It is always present within you. You can use it any way you want. Same thing. Let's look at this for a second. That doesn't. And let me back up and say that we're not aware of this. Be cognizant that as this teaching unfolds, this is happening at the time we are becoming aware of it. So what we need to understand is we have always used our energy to create, but we've done so unaware, and what we have created is our memories and our emotions and stored them away. That is what we have created, and that is what we are now living through. It is always present within you. You can use it any way you want. Same thing. Let's look at it for a second. This represents the cosmic source we emerge from, but we are always in. We cannot create our life and what we become without using energy to do so. In physics, this is called the conservation of energy, and it is absolute. We just don't tend to apply it to ourselves, but we need to. All the energy we use to create a life of joy or a life of hell comes from there, and that is also God. God blesses or curses. We decide, we just don't know that at first. So what then is God's throne? Your higher awareness. This is where your conscious and your higher awareness coexist together. Heaven is the mental space where we feel good, free from the bondages of our past. Kingdom of heaven, nirvana, enlightened. Swearing was the same as above, making a promise to yourself that you don't keep. So if we run this forward again with those interpretations laid out, but I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God. I wrote, do not make false conscious promises to yourself. This would include, for example, maintaining intentions that are never fulfilled, existential suffering, desire to change but never changing, and so suffering as a result. We don't know what to do. Take no thoughts of tomorrow, live in the moment. Let's talk about this for a second. Whatever we're doing constantly throughout the day, we become more of, but we are already functioning through habituation. So as we're learning this process, what we're doing is realizing, oh, I'm messed up. This is hard work. It takes a lot. I see to interrupt it, so I interrupt it. And then 10 minutes later, you realize, wow, for the last 9 minutes and 55 seconds, I lost it. It worked for 5 seconds there, and I've been wandering again. There's a point in the beginning where we're slipping continuously into habituation, and we need to understand that. I don't know where I'm going with this other than that's a part of the process that, I know what it is. That's it. Concerning oaths, doing I'm going to do this, and then we don't. I'm going to do this, then I don't. I need to quit this. But I'm going to not yet. I'll start tomorrow. What we're doing is habituating a practice. We need to quit that. We need to commit to what we're going to do. This is like, I don't know. It's more stoic type material. You just do what's right. Why? Forget your feelings. Do you know what's right? Then do what's right. Don't give in to your feelings. What's the matter with you? Plato, at some point you may know what to do, but you're not doing it because you lack the moral courage to do so. There's a point where we have to commit and do. It doesn't feel fun. It's not easy. It can require a lot of change, and we fall back into habits. But this is what this section right here is going to be teaching us, is to become very single-minded and committed to what we're doing if you're looking for a healing process. You don't go at it kind of wishy-washy. It's a pretty serious thing when you think about what you are, what you become, and that you need to interact with that and change the nature of the way it is stored in order to change life differently. That can seem like a daunting task. And then when you get involved in it and find out that that we're habituated and we have to keep working around and doing other things and putting something else in place as we're eliminating one thing, we're not just leaving life devoid and empty. We're finding other things to do instead that are habitual, that are good for us and healthy for us, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to habituate anyway. So instead of slipping back into the old way, build something that is new, that is positive, and, that sort of stuff. And what I mean is time replacement. It doesn't mean that, I'm going to go from one bad habit that's keeping me all wrapped up to a different kind of habit that's keeping me all wrapped up. You may be habitually looking for peace and to let go of things, which is typically part of the process, getting rid of all of the excess things in life. So, when you're talking about habituating, changing a habit, that doesn't mean replacing busy time with a different kind of busy time. It means replacing a different or one kind of lifestyle with a preferred kind of lifestyle that needs to be habituated for long-term use. It might be something like, I've been drinking an awful lot, and I'm going to replace my drinking time with going mountain bike riding in the evenings or something, hitting some trail rides, or whatever kind of activity, just making something up that you're doing something, but you're doing something that is positive for your life and for your body and for your health, as opposed to something that is detrimental. Don't just sit and go, I don't have anything to do. It'd be easy to slip into old ways when that happens. Find something better to do and go do that instead and enjoy it. It's not an overnight thing. Okay, let's move on with this one. You know what? I started concerning oaths, and I looked ahead and saw where I am in where this chapter is and where it ends, and saw how long I was into the video, and realized this is probably a good place to stop it. I'm going to continue on with this. It's going to take a number of videos to get completely through the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm going to go through the entire thing all the way to the end. I think there's 3 chapters total, and I'm not through the first one, so I don't know if it'll get faster or if I just continue to work it through the way that I do. It is helpful to me to do it because it helps me to see it that way. But anyway, okay, let me go through at this point. I'm going to gather all those up, compile them in the end, and let's just see where we are with where we're going on the interpretation. What we're going to be reading is if I had taken the entire verbiage from Jesus, converted it, and now have it in what would be modern language that I could mentally interact with that would be meaningful for me if I were to extract this from the teachings. This is what it sounds like. Okay, this time I won't read the whole thing, but just from video 3. I'll try to avoid too much repetition. This is what we covered this time then, what it interpreted down to. We were once told to not kill anyone, or we will be judged for it. However, just thinking poorly in judgment of others is bad for us. While seeking a better life, if you recall you have unresolved memories, stop seeking a better life and go resolve the memories first. Then seek a better life. Resolve any new conflicts right away. Do not accumulate new ones. We will not be free till we have resolved all of our hurt emotions, and that requires committing to healing everything that emerges in order to let it all go. You have been told to not have extramarital sex, but everyone who mentally holds any desires will suffer for those desires. If you view life in ways that remain hurtful, get rid of that. Anything you harbor and hide will prevent your complete inner peace. It's better to resolve one issue than to live haunted by it. If you struggle with physical temptation, leave it behind. It is better to get away than to suffer in life. We were once told whoever divorces their wife, make sure it's legal. Divorce in the physical world is okay due to sexual immorality. Anyone who harbors hidden fears will act out those fears, and whoever shares in someone's acting out is also that. We have learned from antiquity not to make promises to God without keeping them. Do not make any false conscious promises to your higher awareness. This would include, for example, maintaining intentions that are never fulfilled, existential suffering, desire to change but never changing, and so suffering as a result. We don't know what to do. Take no thoughts of tomorrow, be in the now. We become what we mentally habituate. Okay, you know what? It's a work in progress. So, it still is going to be rough. I'm sure even when I get done, it's going to be rough, and there's more fine-tuning that would be easy to apply to it. Okay, well, that's it for this video. I hope that this is unfolding in an interesting way. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, or if there was anything I was unclear about, feel free to do that. I've still got a video that I'm going to make for somebody that I'm thinking about because it's kind of outside my realm. So, but I'm pondering it in a way that should be helpful. Okay, I will see you in the next video. Take care.